Welcome back to Fit, the Truckers Financial Channel. I wanted to talk to you today about cash advances. Um, as you saw in that clip earlier, I'm here at a Flying J at Wichita Falls, Texas. They're putting a rock wall, a retaining wall up here for erosion purposes, I guess. And I was sitting here thinking about that, and it was running through my head about digging a hole. And I was thinking, I ought to do a video on Fit about truckers digging a hole for themselves. And, it just seems like several truck drivers have a habit that they do, and they can't get out of that habit. And it seems like they keep digging a hole for themselves. One of the big things that plays a part in this is cash advances. Now, I for myself, I'm not trying to glorify myself or brag on myself or anything. It's just, I'm just speaking the truth here. I don't do cash advances, and I never really did one from the beginning of trucking because I saw all the fees, the interest, the fees, however it is. And I was thinking, why do I want to give somebody money to get my money? I got paid at a job that I worked at several years ago, and they paid us off of a Comdata card. And the company itself would pay to put the money on the Comdata card. Then we had to pay a fee to pay ourselves off of the Comdata card to make a direct deposit into our checking account. The owner of that company and myself were constantly in this battle about why are they doing it this way? Why are there so many fees involved in getting paid? I don't get that, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the fees that are involved in it. It's a habit thing, and something that I have noticed. I have some acquaintances, we'll say it that way, that constantly do cash advances. What I have noticed with those people is they are always in a financial bind. They are always in a financial bind. They get the cash advance as soon as they get out on the truck because they're broke from the week before. And they have to do this in order to get their money so they can go out on the road. And I tell them whenever we get on this subject and talking about it, why don't you just set a little bit of money aside at the end of the week? Your bills are not always consistent the same every week. Set a little bit of money aside each week, save it, stick it back in a coffee can or whatever, and then, when you build up a little bit of money, there's your cash advance that you have for that week. And then you can wait until you get paid, and then you can wait until you get home to pay bills and stuff. And the answer always is we're broke. We can't wait until we get paid. And I think, why don't you stop the cycle? Why don't you stop this roller coaster cycle that you're on of the highs and the lows and even it out? Why don't you do something helpful instead of something hurtful? And they just don't think that way. And then the other thing is, well, we're always broke and we can't take the money out of our check because it's already spent before I even get it. And that's the only way I can get it is to get a cash advance. Mm-mm-mm. want to give you a couple of examples here of stuff that has happened to me in my past. And one of them involves trucking, and one is just a personal thing that has happened to me, but it was with a job. The first one, if you've come here off of Trucking and Politics is my other channel here on YouTube. You know that I rode on the truck with my brother-in-law back in the 80s, the mid to late 80s, and he had been a truck driver for years up until that point. And he worked for a little small reefer hauling company, refrigerated company, out of Russellville, Arkansas. And his name was Don. And I would sometimes go down and spend the whole week and the weekend with them, and then go back out on the truck the next week with them. Sometimes, and sometimes it worked that way, sometimes it didn't, but I got to, knowing his patterns, knowing what he would do. Now, you got to understand, this was back in the 80s. They did it different back then. There was no computers. His trucking company that he would work for, what was normal is they would call him up and say, "Hey, Don, we got a load for you. Come down to the yard, get ready to go out. We got your load for you." So he would get a shower and get all of his stuff ready, run down to the yard. He would sit and BS with the other truck drivers that were in there. And then right before he left out, he would go meet with the owner of the company, the actual owner of the company. And he had a desk over to the side of the shop. He wasn't in an office. He was in the shop itself. And he had this, wood top metal table that he sat at, had huge drawers in it. And he would walk up, and the owner knew exactly what was going on. And he would say, kind of BS with him a little bit. "Well, how much money do you need this week, Don?" $400. I need some lumpers, and I got to pay for pallets. About $400, I think, ought to carry me through the week. After doing it several times in a row, he was home every weekend as well. And after doing this several times in the week, I talked to him one day and I said, "Don, look, why don't we skip the cash advance this week?" "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you didn't have any bills this weekend. You have some money left over on your check. Why don't you take some of that money out for cash, run by the bank and take some cash out, and then, you'll have your cash for this week." And his response always was, whenever I would say anything about it, "Well, who's doing this, me or you?" "Well, you, obviously, but why don't you try something different?" "Well, it's just the way we do it. That's the way reefer haulers do it. It's the way we do it." It's not the way reefer haulers do it. It's the way he did it. And it's the way other company drivers for that company did it. Just because one person does it or a couple of people do it doesn't mean that everyone has to do it the same way. And I was thinking, why don't you just keep some cash out, and do it that way? That way, But back then, I don't think his boss charged, any fees for a cash advance. I think it was just a thing that he did, and it probably helped him out because, he wouldn't have to write as big of a check at the end of the week. But now things are different. Now life is different. Everything has a fee attached to it. I was just looking at the internet a minute ago, and I'm here at this Pilot Flying J, and there's fees involved in a cash advance. I think it's up to $200 if you get fuel. It's no fee, but I think your company charges you. May be wrong about that. You can check with me yourself. I'm sure different companies and different banks and different situations charge, different amounts. What if you need the money but you don't need the fuel? I think it's a flat 3% fee at the Pilot Flying J. And I don't know how other truck stops are. I just Googled this one because I was here, but I don't know how other ones do. But that's 3%. You know, maybe I'm in the wrong business here of doing YouTube and trucking videos and being in trucking, period. Maybe I need to start a cash advance thing up here where I, charge 3%, for cash each week. I mean, can you imagine how many truck drivers get cash advances and 3% of their money goes to this bank? Can you think of how much money they're making off of that? And, the other thing about it is it's just the mentality of it. Even if the 3% doesn't bother you or it's not that much, it's the mentality of it, of not waiting, of being impatient with your money and not waiting until Friday to get paid, or whatever day you get paid, Thursday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever day it is that you get paid, of not waiting to get paid. You want your money now. It's an impatient thing. And to me, that spurs spontaneous buys and stuff. Well, I've got money now, I can go buy it. Something that you would put off till next week to buy. Well, I can buy it on Tuesday because I've got money now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, patience and savings and money management and all this stuff goes along with each other. When you go buy, I did it this morning myself. I saw a thing this morning. I walked into the truck stop to use the restroom. I was going to go right back out to the truck. I have food in my refrigerator. I have everything I need for the week, usually. And if I buy anything, it's just something extra that I wanted or thought that I needed or whatever. I went by the little hot box thing there. They had 2 breakfast sandwiches left, and they were sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwiches. They were like this big. I mean, really, really small. $5.99. $5.99 for this little small breakfast sandwich. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to go get something out of the truck, or, I'll wait until lunch or something. We're not doing that. We're not paying $6 for a little breakfast sandwich that it would just be empty calories and I wouldn't even get anything fulfilling off of it. And a couple hours later, I'm going to be hungry again anyway. So I just walked on by it. Left it sitting there, let somebody else buy it. So that goes along to my next example that I was going to give. Later on, my brother-in-law passed away a few years after I'd started riding on the truck with him. He had a massive heart attack and passed away. I didn't want to get into trucking. At first, I didn't want to get into trucking at all. And I had went to work at this factory. I was late teens, early 20s when I went to work there. And this was still, late 80s, early 90s is what I'm talking about. And still no computers, no direct deposit, none of that stuff. We got an actual paper check that we would get at the end of the week. Every Friday night was the same thing. It would happen every Friday night the same way. These people at the factory would go in. We had this big lock box. It looked like a post office box with these little slits in it with a key. We would stick our key in and open it up, and there was our check. And it would have safety letters and other stuff in there, But some guys would put their safety glasses and ear protection and stuff in there, so they would have it for their next shift. They used it for a little storage box. And every Friday, our checks was in there. When we got into work Friday afternoon, everybody walked straight in, opened their box up, got their check out. And we only got 30 minutes off for for lunch break. And this little town that I was in, what they would do is whenever they got ready on Friday night for their break, they would have their check signed in their pocket and they would hit that door. I mean, 200 people running out of that factory, hitting the door, and they would scatter all over town to the grocery stores, to Walmart, wherever, and cash their check on a Friday night. One of those places was the grocery store that I had worked at later on in life. And I would never do it. I would just say, I'll run by the bank tonight on my way home, and I'll put my check in the bank. And people was like, why? And I was like, well, the money will be there tomorrow. The bank's open Saturday. They'll deposit the money in the bank and it'll be there. But then you'll have to go get cash Saturday morning and make another trip. And I was like, what do I need cash for? I'd carry cash from the week before. Why do I need cash right now? And it was this reoccurring thing that I saw, that they were constantly broke. And in a way, cashing their check on a Friday night was in a way getting a cash advance. Because they wanted that cash and they wanted it now. So they could go out Friday night. Back then it was a big thing, to hit the bars and run around. And, they needed gas money, they needed beer money, they needed bar fees and all this stuff. They needed that stuff, and they didn't have it from the week before because that money was spent. So they were essentially getting a cash advance. And that's how all their money was gone. And the rest of the week, they were eating hot dogs and bologna sandwiches or whatever they could get by with for the rest of the week because all their money was gone. There was a song back then in the 80s, working for the weekend. That's basically what they were doing. They were working for the weekend. The weekends meant everything to them. So they had to have their money. And I mean, maybe a lot of people call me a stick in the mud. That I'm not exciting enough for the world, and I don't get out and kick up my heels and party and drink and all that. Trust me, if you would have saw me, earlier in life, you would have changed your mind in thinking about that, because I definitely had my round of that. My thing is, after a while, I just got to the point where I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I beating myself up? Why am I digging this hole for myself? Why am I making life harder on myself? Why can't I do something to make life easier for myself? So, being patient and waiting till you get paid, sticking a few dollars back, being more, I guess, mature, for a lack of a better word, being more mature with your money, being more financially responsible with your money will definitely change you. It will definitely change you. Don't ever wait until you're in a corner to where you need that money right now. You have to have it right this minute. And why does people want to work week to week? Why do you want to back yourself in that corner where you have to do something in order to get paid? Because you have to have that. That's a situation where people will start taking advantage of you. They will take advantage of your situation. They will see that you're in a desperate situation, that you have to do what they tell you to do. Case in point, the first trucking company that I worked for after I got off the truck of being an owner operator, that guy was a jerk. That whole company was horrible. And it was because of the drivers and the mentality that they dealt with. You know, they'd offer them a little bit more money than the other trucking companies around did. They had a little bit faster trucks than the other companies did, but they pushed you hard and they ran you really hard. And the truckers liked it. They liked it that way because they were in this mentality where we have to have this money. We have to have it, and we have to have it now. And the trucking company was like, we'll give you what you want because we're going to get what we want out of you. And I didn't fit with that. I didn't fit with it. And I just told them flat out, you know, when it came to that point with them, and I said, look, if this is what you expect of me, I expect more of you. So there's going to be a raise involved here. And you're going to be paying me a lot more money if you want this type of work out of me. And their response was, no, because if you quit or something happens to you, we've got a stack of applications on the desk and we're ready to go for the next guy. And that's where we confronted and we butted heads. And I said, well, it sounds like to me you don't want me here any more than I want to be here. And he just nodded his head. And see, I had that opportunity where I said, fine, I'll just walk away. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to deal with this type of abuse. And to me, it is abuse. What I'm trying to say with this whole video, and what I'm trying to say with this whole channel, is stop the self-abuse. You know, stop the self-abuse. Stop being this way towards yourself. Be good to yourself. I say that all the time on Trucking and Politics. That's how I end the videos over there. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. You know, be good to yourself. Don't treat yourself like the trucking companies want to treat you. Do better. Do better for yourself. You know, a little bit of patience, a little bit of hard work, a little bit of savings, a little bit of denial. A lot of this stuff, you know, it goes a long way to helping you out. And, you know, as we go farther with this channel, we'll get into investments and how to be better of yourself and how to better yourself, and talking about, you know, investments in the bank, the stock market, mutual funds, whatever. I mean, we'll get into that. I mean, we will eventually get into that. At first on this channel, I'm wanting to set the foundation, you know, set it to where we're all on firm ground. And I'm not knocking you. I'm not knocking anybody down and trying to push anybody down to the ground. I'm trying to lift everybody up and help everyone out. We went through a really, really bad 3 to 4 years. And I don't know what is going to happen next. I don't know. We can only assume. You know, and they say never to assume, because you break that word up, it makes a thing out of you and me. You know, we don't want to assume what's going to happen to us, but it would be good to know that we're already prepared for what is going to happen to us. So if you're going to be ready and be prepared, then you have to build this foundation. And that's why I'm wanting to help. And that's why I'm wanting to do these videos this way, to start out, lay the groundwork. Don't dig a hole. You know, you might have to dig a little hole in order to get your footing. But once you get your footing, then you lay your foundation and you prepare it right, and you've got a solid foundation in order to build on. You know, that's the way the construction people do. It's the way they're doing out here with this thing. Do that for yourself. Build your foundation. Get ready to build upon it. Make sure that you've built it very good and solid, and it can withstand the pressure that's going to come. Case in point, don't do cash advances. Don't give the upper hand to them. You take the upper hand for yourself. That's all I've got for now. You guys be good. Take care of yourself. And we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.